This is Schmidtville, a melange of architecture and history where people have lived and prospered in the heart of Halifax since before Canada was a country. It may look as though these houses have been here forever, but this is a dynamic neighbourhood where, after nearly 2 centuries, the acceptance of change has largely accounted for Schmidtville's remarkable survival. 3 distinctive architectural styles are represented within its borders: Georgian, Victorian, and Second Empire, with a smattering of Queen Anne just for good measure. In this street, Georgian houses predominate, identifiable by their simplicity and symmetrical balance. Most of the houses were built after 1832, the year Elizabeth Schmidt subdivided an 11-acre parcel of land she had inherited from her father, James Pedley, from Birmingham in England. This followed the death of her husband, Captain Christian Schmidt, of King George III's Royal Foreign Artillery.
You know, who are the people who visit Halifax? They come on cruise ships. People come here for the history. They like the old neighborhoods. They like the maritime feel with the different colored houses, that kind of thing. I think it's just a mistake to tear all this stuff down. You know, even if the houses are old, they need a lot of upkeep. But this is essentially what Halifax is great for.
Many of the homes were originally 1.5-story cottages, like the cluster of mirror image buildings you see here. To make more space, the pitched roofs were later removed and the buildings squared off. And from newspaper accounts of Schmidtville's early days, we know that these were the homes of butchers and bakers and candlestick makers, hard-working artisans. Through this adaptation, Schmidtville has become one of the most densely populated districts in the city, as well as one of the most humanly diverse, which is why young people like Chelsea, Twyla, and David, all art students, love it so much.
I mean, you see so many parts of town that are just trying to take out the old and then build in new condos and stuff like that, but there's very little character left in that, and I don't know. They tend to become more of an eyesore than anything. You know, this is more cozy, this is more homey, there's so much more character to it, and I think it's an important part of downtown Halifax because they pride themselves so much on the old homes and how they're all very unique. So yeah, I don't know, I think this is, you gotta keep it going.
It's a pretty vibrant neighborhood and there's a really strong sense of community, which I like. Because a lot of the time I found moving to bigger cities that you don't get to know your neighbors, and that's been different here, you know. So it's been really nice to, hi sweetie, to get to know my neighbors and get the sort of family dynamic that goes along in here. It's pretty good.
The gentry, doctors, lawyers, and politicians lived around the corner on Morris Street. The houses there were larger and more imposing, like this still surviving Georgian masterpiece. The solid row of Georgian structures across the street were where at least one premier and an attorney general, a mayor, and many other notables lived. Schmidtville's rich social tapestry even contains a link with the Titanic, this cluster of row houses built by George Wright, a millionaire developer who made his fortune publishing business directories. Sadly, George didn't enjoy pride of ownership for long, dying aboard the ill-fated liner in 1912. He willed his own house, a Queen Anne revival mansion, to the Council of Women, a group formed for the betterment of women and children, which still owns it today. Nearby, on the border of Schmidtville, is this wonderful row of South Park Street houses, the best illustration of Second Empire architecture in the district. With their turrets, mansard roofs, and generous ornamentation, they were built by people out to impress. Around the corner on Brenton Street, we find examples of the more utilitarian aspects of Schmidtville, although strictly speaking, Sir Brenton Halliburton's property here lay just outside its historic borders. A carriage works once operated beyond this archway, one of the many forms of commerce that took place here. Today there are offices and nearby what appears to be a heritage house, but which in reality is both a residence and a woodworking shop, evident of how Schmidtville continues to live graciously while serving the practical needs of society. In another successful adaptation, the small 19th century house that once occupied this site on Dresden Row was transformed into what you see today after the former building was moved off its foundation and completely rebuilt to meet the needs of 21st century living, while at the same time preserving the basic character of the neighbourhood. And what you see here was once a derelict bakery building, given new life as a cluster of very livable courtyard apartments. So much of what today makes Halifax so very special in Canada, its history, its architecture, its social civility, and cussed determination to survive, is evident in Schmidtville. We owe it to the generations who created it to see it remains for others who come after us to enjoy.